Hello, welcome back. Today's topic is about Central Ethiopia / North Shua / Debris Burhan to Awash to Adama to Oibuti Berbera Kenya Port and Somaliland Port in table route and cost in table. Below is a route and cost table for a proposed railway corridor starting in North Shua / Central Ethiopia, specifically Debris Burhan, and connecting to Djibouti, Berbera / Somaliland, and Kenya's Lamu / Mombasa ports. I have separated new railway construction from existing railway infrastructure, because the Addis, Djibouti Railway already exists. One main railway corridors from North Shua / Debra Burhan. No. Corridor / route approximate new railway existing railway used. 1 Debra Burhan rightward arrow Addis / Shajar rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Miso rightward arrow Dire Dawa rightward arrow Djibouti. 200, 230 km asterisk Adama rightward arrow Djibouti. Port. Djibouti Port. Preliminary capex 1.3 to 2.0 billion US dollars. 2 Debra Burhan rightward arrow Addis / Shajar rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Awash rightward arrow Dire Dawa rightward arrow Ayesha rightward arrow Berbera. 200, 230 km plus 310 kilometers Ayesha, Berbera Adama / Awash rightward arrow Ayesha Berbera Port, Somaliland. 3 Debra Burhan rightward arrow Addis / Shajar rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow South Ethiopia rightward arrow Moyle rightward arrow Igiala rightward arrow Lamu. 700, 1,000 km Ethiopian / Kenyan connection asterisk. Some existing sections. 2.8 to 3.5 billion US dollars. Lamu Port, Kenya. 4 Debra Burhan rightward arrow Addis / Shajar rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow South Ethiopia rightward arrow Moyle rightward arrow Kenya rightward arrow Nairobi rightward arrow Mombasa. 1,000 plus km asterisk existing / new Kenyan network depending route. $3, 5 plus billion asterisk. Mombasa Port, Kenya $4, 6 plus billion asterisk. Asterisk distances for proposed Debra Burhan and Kenya connections are planning estimates, not surveyed railway alignments. They should be replaced by an engineering route study. 2 more detailed route and cost structure. Section route status indicative distance benchmark cost / km indicative cost. Debra Burhan rightward arrow Addis / Shajar rightward arrow Adama new 200, 230 km 4 to 7 million US dollars per kilometer 0.8 to 1.6 billion US dollars. Via Adama rightward arrow Awash rightward arrow Miso rightward arrow Dire Dawa rightward arrow Djibouti existing railway 630 km existing asset. C. Ayesha rightward arrow Berbera new proposed SGR 310 kilometers US dollar 4.84 m / km 1.5 billion US dollars. D. Debra Burhan rightward arrow Adama plus Ayesha Berbera combined Berbera project 510, 540 km new US dollar 5 m / km average US dollar 2.5, 3.0 BN. Ethiopia rightward arrow Moyle rightward arrow Igiala rightward arrow Lama proposed regional railway TBD $4, 6 m / km planning range several billion US dollar F. Ethiopia rightward arrow Moyle rightward arrow Kenya rightward arrow Mombasa long-term alternative TBD $4, 6 m / km several billion US dollar. The Awash, Woldia / Haragabay Railway provides a useful Ethiopian benchmark, 392 kilometers at 1.7 billion US dollars, or approximately 4.34 million US dollars per kilometer, including electrification and substantial bridges / tunnels. 3 Port comparison. Port proposed railway route from Debra Burhan new railway requirement indicative investment strategic advantage. Djibouti Debra Burhan rightward arrow Addis rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Miso rightward arrow Dire Dawa rightward arrow Djibouti 200, 230 km new 1.3 to 2.0 billion US dollars existing railway and established port Berbera / Somaliland Debra Burhan rightward arrow Addis rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Dire Dawa rightward arrow Ayesha rightward arrow Berbera 510, 540 km new 2.8 to 3.5 billion US dollars strong alternative to Djibouti. Lamu / Kenya Debra Burhan rightward arrow Addis rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Southern Ethiopia rightward arrow Moyle rightward arrow Igiala rightward arrow Lamu 700, 1,000 plus km new / required asterisk $3, 5 plus BN strategic diversification. Mombasa / Kenya Debra Burhan rightward arrow Addis rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Southern Ethiopia rightward arrow Moyle rightward arrow Kenya rightward arrow Mombasa 1,000 plus km asterisk $4, 6 plus BN alternative major gateway. 4 Key existing railway costs existing project length historical / project cost Addis Ababa, Djibouti Railway 656 kilometers 4.0 billion US dollar financing costs / km US dollar 6.1 m / km Awash, Woldia / Haragabaya 392 kilometers 1.7 billion US dollars Woldia, Haragabaya, Mikel 216 kilometers 1.6 billion US dollars $4.34 m / km US dollar 7.41 m / km Ayesha, Berber 310 kilometers $1.5 billion estimate $4.84 m/km. Addis, Djibouti Railway is a 656 kilometers electrified standard gauge line and began commercial service in 2018. The Ethiopian government project profile for Aisha, Berber estimates 310 kilometers and $1.5 billion, but explicitly describes that figure as a rough estimate requiring detailed feasibility and engineering studies. For Lamu, the current PIDA investment prospectus describes a 2,900 kilometers regional standard gauge lapset railway network with a total project cost of $12 billion. This is the whole regional network, not the cost of it of Berber Lamu line alone. 5 recommended investment priority corridor 1 to Berber. In rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Djibouti approximate N. W capex 1.3 to $2.0 billion why lowest incremental cost because it connects to the existing railway 2 to Berber rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Dire Dawa rightward arrow Berber 2.8 to $3.5 billion gives Ethiopia a second independent maritime corridor 3 to Berber rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Moyle rightward arrow Lamu $3. 5 plus BN opens Kenya / Lamu alternative 4 to Berber rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Moyle rightward arrow Mombasa $4. 6 plus BN longest and most capital intensive alternative. Best project concept. North Shua / Amhara rightward arrow to Berber rightward arrow Addis / Shager rightward arrow Adama rightward arrow Awash / Dire Dawa rightward arrow. 1. Djibouti or 2. Aisha Berbera, with a future southern branch toward Moyle, Lamu / Mombasa. This approach allows the Berber Adama section to become a common northern railway trunk, while the eastern network branches toward multiple maritime gateways. Thank you. See you soon.